So hello guys, it is Briggsyboy here, welcome back to my channel, and today I have a different sort of video for you guys to enjoy. So what I'll be doing is ranking all of the 24 League 2 stadiums. Something I've not done yet on the channel. I thought it'd be something a little different that you guys might enjoy. So without further ado, let's crack on with the first ground. Now before we get into this video, I am basing the ratings off this out of a mark out of 10, and it's not only based on the looks of the ground and the size of it, but also other things like how easy it is to get to it, the facilities around the ground, pubs and restaurants nearby, that sort of thing. But getting on to the first ground, we have Bury GIGG Lane. It has a capacity of nearly 12,000 and it is a new all-seated stadium. It was drastically improved in the 1990s and it improved the overall look of the ground, and it makes it one of the better grounds that you will see in the 4th division of English football. There is, however, one part of GIGG Lane that I'm not that keen of in the stadium, and you get these little boxes on one side of the ground and they look a bit ugly, they look a bit outdated and out of place. I think that does need to be replaced. It's a good ground for away supporters though. I visited GIGG Lane myself back in November 2017 when I was watching Blackburn Rovers away. They could accommodate up to 2,000 away fans, and the stand is situated quite a bit back from the pitch, which is unusual, but it means that it feels like you've plenty of space there. There's plenty of pubs nearby for those travelling supporters and home supporters as well, of course, and it's a good little ground. I do like it. I give it a rating of 7 out of 10. Next up, Cambridge United, the ABBEY Stadium. So it is a capacity of around 8,100 supporters. The South Stand is the newest part of it, which was opened back in 2002. This is where away fans are placed and it can hold up to 1,600 travelling supporters. There's not really an awful lot around the ABBEY Stadium, you know, there's not really anywhere to drink or eat, and it does look a little run down around the area. Not the best of stadiums. I think it does need some improvements to it to make it one of the better grounds in the division. I give it a rating then, unfortunately, of 5.5 out of 10. Next up, Carlisle United, Brunton Park. I visited Brunton Park myself back in August 2018 and I actually really like the stadium. It's a bit of an unusual one because the stands are all different sizes. You've got a mix of old and new parts to the ground, but I think that added to the character. Away fans are placed on one side of the east stand where up to 2,000 can be accommodated. You've probably noticed that they've that standing area behind one of the goals that never seems to get used. That does look a bit ugly in my opinion, it's a bit of an eyesore. But apart from that, I did really like Brunton Park. The area around it is really nice. You know, there's a lot of history to Carlisle. You're only a 10-15 minute walk from the town centre and there's plenty of stuff to do there. Overall rating, it's the highest one yet. I went 7.5 out of 10. Cheltenham Town, the Johnny Rock Stadium. A capacity of just over 7,000 and it is a seated and standing area ground. So it's not a bad little ground this, you know. Newest addition of the stadium was the Hazelwood stand that was opened in December 2005 and it holds about 1,100 fans. This is where away supporters are housed and tickets are a little pricey for League 2 in my opinion. Overall, not a bad little ground though, sort of slap bang average that you'd expect in League 2. I've gone with a rating of 6 out of 10 then. Next up, Colchester United, the JOBSERVE Stadium. It's one of the newest grounds in the division this, and it is a capacity of 10,100. It's an all-seater stadium as you would expect from the more modern grounds in the division. And overall, I do like it. I think it's a smart little stadium. The only drawback, as you would expect from newer grounds, is that it's literally built in the middle of nowhere, on the outskirts of Colchester, on a sort of new business park. Away fans, they can accommodate up to 1,000, and you know, you get a good view of the playing action with it being a new ground. A good little bonus that I found out about Colchester as well is everybody that purchases a match ticket gets a free match programme, which isn't bad at all, something that you don't see at many grounds in the EFL. Overall, I've given the JOBSERVE Stadium a rating of 6.5 out of 10. Crawley Town, the People's Pension Stadium. So this one is one of the smallest grounds in the division with a capacity of just over 6,100. It's a relatively new stadium that was built in 1997. The newest part of the ground itself, well, there was a new stand, the East Stand, that was put up in 2012. And tickets not too bad if you're under 21s. In fact, they're one of the cheapest in the division. Overall, similar to Cheltenham, it's about an average stadium that you would expect in the division, so I've given it a rating of 6 out of 10 for the People's Pension Stadium. Next up, Crewe Alexandra, the Alexander Stadium. It's a bit of a funny layout at Crewe because they have one stand that absolutely dominates the other and can hold up to 7,000. That is of course the main stand. But away fans are putting the Whitby Morrison ice cream van stand, that is a bit of a mouthful, where they can accommodate around 1,600 travelling supporters. You've got a fish and chip shop just outside the stadium, which is never a bad thing, so that gets brownie points for me. And there are a number of pubs within walking distance of the ground, so the Alexander Stadium is in a prime location. Therefore, I've given it a rating of 6.5 out of 10. Next up, Exeter City, St James's Park. As you know, they've updated about 2 or 3 stands at the ground, vastly improving the overall look of it and really modernising it. So the first of these stands is the Stagecoach Adam Stanfield, which was opened in October 2018, and it has a capacity of around 1,600 seats. There is also a small covered terrace for away fans at the St James's Park end of the ground, and this modern structure holds up to 950 supporters. Exeter's ground is in a great location, you know, it's right near where all the action happens with the pubs and the places to eat and things like that, so you're guaranteed a good away day there. There's no doubt that the improvements that they've made to St James's Park have made a big difference on the overall rating and look of the ground in my opinion, therefore I've given it a rating of 7 out of 10. Next up, Forest Green Rovers, the New Lawn. Now this is actually the smallest stadium in the division with a capacity just a couple of numbers off 5,000. The stadium's dominated by the smart looking main east stand at one side of the pitch, and it's an all seated area that has a capacity of 1,800 people. Overall it's a small but tidy stadium that doesn't look too bad, it's just the location that is the main problem for me. Forest Green, of course, famous for being one of the only clubs in the EFL that does not sell meat products at all, so don't be expecting to get a good cheeseburger over there. But without a shadow of a doubt, the biggest problem about Forest Green Stadium is not the size of it, not all that stuff, but there is no train station in Nailsworth, so it's about 5 miles to the nearest one, which really is a bit of a kick in the teeth if you're a travelling away supporter. Overall then, it's a small ground, it needs improvements to compete with the big boys in League 2. I've given it a rating then of 5.5 out of 10. Next up, Grimsby Town, Blundell Park. Not a bad little ground this with a capacity of just over 9,000. It's an all-seated stadium that does look quite smart. The tallest part of the stadium is the Finders stand, that is 2 tiers all seating. Opposite this is the main old stand that has parts dating back to 1901, possibly making it one of the oldest parts of a ground still alive today. It is handy in the fact that you get a McDonald's just outside the ground and there are a number of pubs to visit. I have given Blundell Park then a rating of 6.5 out of 10. So next up is Lincoln City with the Sincil Bank Stadium. Now their all-seater stadium has a capacity of around 10,100 people. The largest stand at the ground is the Co-op Community stand, that is a single tier with a capacity of around 5,700. It's a bit of a mixed bag at the ground because all the different stands are different sizes and shapes, so it does look a little unusual, but it adds to the overall character of the ground and it's certainly unique compared to others in the division. I've gone with a rating then of 7 out of 10. Next up, Macclesfield Town Moss Rose. A capacity of 6,335 and around 2,600 of these are seated. So on one side you have the Bristol Street Motors stand, which is very unusual because you have a covered seating area in the centre and then you have a standing terrace at either end, something that you don't really see in grounds nowadays. The other stands, they're fairly small but they are smart and they were only built quite recently, so they don't look too bad really. Away fans, however, going on the oldest parts of the ground, they go in the open John Askey Terrace. 1,500 can be accommodated though, however facilities are rather poor as you would expect from an outdated stand. Overall then, I think Moss Rose is an alright ground, but it still needs quite a bit of work doing to it if it's going to compete with others in the division. I've gone with a rating then of 5.5 out of 10. Mansfield Town, the One Call Stadium, a capacity of around 9,100, an all-seater stadium which has had quite a bit of work done to it recently. Now it looks good, however from the outside it does look a little unusual as it only has 3 stands, one behind either end of the goal, and then you've got the main stand, the 2-tier one on the west side. So the biggest part of the ground, like I say, is the west stand with a 2-tiered capacity of around 5,500. The Bishop Street side of the ground is unused for spectators and is the entire length filled with advertising ornaments. Now this is a stand that used to be in operation, but it was closed a few years ago due to safety concerns, so it still remains untouched. I do think this is one part of the ground that definitely needs something doing to it. Mansfield Stadium looks wise is actually one of my favourite ones in the division. I think if they get that Bishop Street side stand sorted, then it'd be without a doubt probably one of the best grounds in the league. But I've gone with a rating of 7 out of 10. Next up, Milton Keynes Dons Stadium MK. Now what can I say? If I was to describe the perfect stadium, this perhaps would be it. So Stadium MK has a capacity of around 30,500 and it was opened back in 2007. Now I was absolutely blown away when I went by just how much there is to do there. You've got several food outlets, plenty of places to eat and drink. You've even got a cinema on site. You name it, they've got it. It is a brilliant place. Inside the ground, it is so nice. Facilities top notch, it's clean, it's tidy. The seats are like leather, so they are super comfy. You get a brilliant view of the play in action. And it was one of my more favourite away days from last season. As you would expect, Stadium MK is the only ground in League 2 that has undersoil heating, so that pitch is always in tip-top condition. Overall rating then, I have gone with 9 out of 10, so you're into that top tier. Next up, Morecambe, the Globe Arena. Now, it's a small little ground this, I've got to say. Morecambe moved to it back in 2010, following on from the demolishment of Christie Park, their old home ground. So it is a capacity of around 6,400 and it is a seated and standard stadium. The main PMG stand at the ground does look really smart, you know, you can spot it a mile off. It has modern facilities, you know, and it looks good in and outside. Away fans go in the Heart FM stand where up to 1,200 can be accommodated. The only letdown for me is the car wash stand on one side of the pitch. I think that needs changing, it needs making into a covered terrace. The location could be better. It's currently situated in Westgate, not the best area, there's not a whole lot to do there. If you go into the Globe Arena as well, make sure that you try out their pies because they are world famous and very tasty indeed. Overall then, I have given the Globe Arena a rating of 6.5 out of 10. Newport County Rodney Parade. Now Newport County actually moved to Rodney Parade in the 2012-13 season after spending 18 years at Newport Stadium. So they do share with rugby team Newport Gwent Dragons. So the pitch, it is built as being a rugby stadium, so if you are unfortunate to be at either end of the goals, you are quite a bit away from the play in action due to the pitch dimensions being different in rugby and football. So it's not ideal, however, it's a smart little ground. They've made investments to it. You've got 2 new stands there now, which have improved the look of the ground quite a bit. Some old parts of the stadium as well, which does add to the character. And I've given it a rating of 6.5 out of 10. Notts County Meadow Lane, one of the biggest grounds in the division with a capacity of just under 20,000. It's an all-seated stadium where the look got drastically rebuilt back in the 1990s, converting it to an all-seater stadium, making it look smart and improving the facilities both in and out. I give it a rating of 7 out of 10. Northampton Town at the PTS Academy Stadium. So a capacity of around 7,800, this all-seater stadium was where Northampton Town moved to back in October 1994. I visited myself back in December 2017 for the Rovers versus Northampton match, and I thought it was a smart little stadium, you know, a good away day, nice fans, very welcoming. The only downfall to Northampton Town's ground is the new East stand that they opened back in 2016 is still having work done to it to put in executive boxes and corporate facilities. The ticket prices are fairly reasonable at Northampton, but the main drawback is the lack of what you can do there on an away day. That is the main reason why I'm giving it a rating of 6.5 out of 10. Oldham Athletic Boundary Park, a capacity of just over 13,000 and an all-seated stadium. I visited myself back in October 2017 and it was a good away day, you know. Oldham are known for having passionate and enthusiastic fans, so the atmosphere was good. Blackburn brought in numbers, so overall it was a good away day for me. So the look of Boundary Park was drastically improved back in 2015 when they opened the North stand. It's a good sized stand, single tier and holds around 2,300 people. And in my opinion, it just generally looks really good. Away supporters go in the Chaddy Road end where up to 3,750 can be accommodated. What I did find about it is that it does look a bit run down, a bit tired, and I think it could do with a lick of paint here and there. It's in an alright location as well because you've got quite a few places to eat and drink near there, which is essential if you're a away supporter. Always stuff to do there, lively atmosphere, and overall a good away day. So I give Boundary Park a rating of 7 out of 10. Port Vale, Vale Park. One of the biggest grounds in the division, similar size to Notts County, with a capacity of around 19,000. It's an all-seated stadium with a good mixture of old and new parts to it. The biggest letdown for me though is the Lawn Street stand, which is yet to be fully completed. Work began with it back in 1999, so it should be done by now, so it is affecting the overall aesthetics of it and how it looks like for fans that go to the ground. What I did find after a bit of research is that the food on offer at Vale Park is actually one of the cheapest in the division, so that's also good if you're a travelling away fan. What I also like about Vale Park, I think the front entrance does look really nice, you know, it looks modern and improves the overall look of the ground in my opinion. However, it's a good ground, I do like it with a good capacity, so I've given it a rating of 7 out of 10. Moving on to Stevenage with the Lamex Stadium. Now, I'm not quite sure on the capacity for Stevenage ground, being as they have had quite a bit of work done to it at the moment. As you might know, and as you might have seen, they have been doing the development of the north end of the ground. So currently, there are only 3 stands in operation. Away supporters go in the south stand, which was opened back in 2001. It looks modern and can accommodate up to 1,400 supporters. Overall, Stevenage is in a good area, nice little ground, but until they get that north stand up and running at the start of next season, my rating is going to be down to a 6 out of 10. Next up, Swindon Town, the Energy Check County Ground. So again, quite a big stadium with an overall capacity of around 15,500. An all-seated stadium that has a different mix of stands. So you've got the Stratton Bank stand, which is similar to Gillingham's in the fact that it is completely uncovered and open to the elements. However, this is rarely used with away fans going the Arkell stand at one side of the pitch, where up to 1,200 can be housed. Overall, I do like Swindon Town's ground, you know, it's a good size, like I say, a different mix of stands, which is something that you don't always see in the higher divisions. I've given it a rating then of 7 out of 10. Next up, the newly promoted team Tranmere Rovers, Prenton Park. It is a big old stadium with a capacity of around 16,500. It's an all-seated stadium that has obviously had work to it done over the past 2 decades. So it's dominated by the Cop stand at one end of the stadium, which was opened back in 1995. This has a capacity of 5,696. Away fans go in the Cowshed stand, which can accommodate up to 2,500 supporters. Despite the name, it is actually a really good area. You know, you get a good view of the playing action, good facilities, and the stand is close to the pitch, which is always a positive for fans. There's always plenty going on around the stadium's area, and the stadium itself looks really good, definitely one of the better ones in the league. I've gone with a rating of 7.5 out of 10. And finally, moving on to the last one, we have Yeovil Town with HUISH Park. So a capacity of around 9,500 and 5,200 of these being seated, so you've got a seating and standing ground. It's a small, tidy looking ground which doesn't look too bad. Away fans go in the Radio Cab stand, which is an uncovered terrace and can accommodate up to 1,500 supporters, so you better hope it's a dry day, just like Swindon's ground, because you are completely open to the elements. The other issue though, just like Forest Green Stadium, where it is located, is that it is not ideal at all for trains. You've got Penmill Junction, which is just under 3 miles away, and the Yeovil Junction is 5 miles away. So overall then, the location is not ideal, especially if you're a travelling supporter, but I like the ground, it is quite nice. I've gone with the rating overall then of 6 out of 10. So then that was me ranking each of the League 2 stadiums out of 10. Take everything that I've said with a pinch of salt. Of course, before this video ends, if you have enjoyed it, make sure to leave a like down below. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. I'm trying to hit 3,000 subs before the end of the season in May, so every single subscriber towards that number helps an awful lot. And yeah, I'll see you next time.